to the latest episode of the Shell Report, your weekly show through the 2025 season, diving into Maryland football. I'm Ahmed Gafir, joined once again by Ben Strober and Ricky Welch. And fellas, heading into November, we are looking to see if Maryland football can end their three-game slide as they drop another heartbreaker to UCLA. Before the bye week, Maryland traveled out west for their first matchup against UCLA as Big Ten members, fell 20-17 in a game for the third straight week that Maryland held the lead in the fourth quarter and ultimately collapsed. UCLA was able to score on each of their last three possessions in order to take the win. Guys, what stuck out? Ben, we'll kick it off with you.
I'm not even really going to go in on the offense here because they don't find the end zone until that game tying drive in the fourth quarter, which is a huge problem within itself. But just from an overarching view within the program right now, it seems like they're in their own head when it comes to playing in these fourth quarter situations. And maybe you felt like you saw a light at the end of the tunnel when Malik leads them to a game tying drive late in the fourth quarter there. But then just finding ways in very short time for UCLA to get down the field, and then the big play when UCLA was already pretty close to field goal range, and then you give up the big play to really cement this loss and make it a chip shot field goal for the Bruins to go and win that game. It just seems like something that has kind of defined what we've seen throughout the 7 years here of Loxley. If they've really struggled to get over the hump when they get in these losing streaks. Now in every single season under Loxley, they've had at least a 3-game losing streak, and yeah, maybe a lot of those years it was because they were lacking the talent necessary at times previously in the regime. But the fact that it keeps on happening this way for this team, where they blow these leads late in the game, they really struggle in the fourth quarter. It's just a really glaring issue, and I'm not sure how they're going to be able to break out of it. And this is an Indiana team where you probably don't even have the opportunity, unless a lot of things go your way, to have a lead late in the game. So when is the next opportunity going to come for this team to close things out? I don't know, but they need to find a way to get over the hump, or it's going to be a long rest of the year.
I'll go. I'll go in on the offense. You didn't want to. I'll do it. I mean, they're just lacking an identity right now. I mean, they didn't get into the end zone like you said until the fourth quarter. More points come from the defense. I think I counted six
Looks
3
cool.
and outs, and a few of them came in a row. And the defense is getting constantly off the field, at least in the middle part of the game, with a pick six, with the Sidney Stewart strip sack, and the offense is lacking the consistent pop in the run game. I mean, there's a few plays here and there that they pop, but just the consistent churning of yards is not happening. Malik, I feel like every time you look up in most of these games, he's under 50% passing and doesn't have a lot of yards to go with along with it. That could be from the receivers not getting separation, dropping passes, not taking a lot of shots downfield either. A lot of short, intermediate passes that keep coming up, and there's kind of a lack of creativity with just the overall play calling and the overall offense that is really frustrating to me. You're not really putting this freshman quarterback in a great spot with the lack of a good running game and not really giving him many creative plays to get the receivers open. And the drops again. Jalil Farouk with the huge drop, I believe it was in the fourth quarter on the second down. Would have been an easy first down. This is when Maryland was still winning. And just plays like that, the receivers not getting separation again. And then play calling in the red zone, kind of brutal again. I mean, that first drive in the first quarter, you throw a toss behind the line of scrimmage on second down, you lose yards there, end up getting a field goal, and then the fourth down play call to a fade to your tight end who hasn't been doing that great either. I mean, it's just a lacking identity, no real explosive plays in the air at least, and maybe the last drive showed you that Malik can use his legs a little bit more and integrate that more into the offense. But again, when the defense is really keeping you in the game, the offense just could not get anything going, and that is not going to be the case this week with an explosive Indiana defense. Offense. You're gonna have to put up points on the board.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point, and a couple points. I mean, when Maryland started to really gain momentum offensively, that Dwan Williams, when he had the 23-yard run, would at the time was the longest run of the game, and then very next play fumbles it. Maryland, they lose possession right there. So definitely felt like a game where Maryland lost momentum. I think for me it was really Mike Loxley's been transparent that depth is a concern for Maryland this season, and he said that going into the season. I think this is really that first game where you really saw the issue with that. Obviously going into the game, you had Zahir Mathis, who was inactive after not being able to play. Coach Locks mentioned going into this week that he's hopeful that Mathis is able to return. And in those last drives, Dante Joyner went down, Daniel Wingate went down, Jalen Husky went down after our targeting, and he will miss the first half of the Indiana game, which is a big loss for Maryland's defense, who's probably really their veteran leader on the back end and probably overall. That was multiple injuries, and you kind of had to see Maryland try and pivot, and you saw Maryland play a lot of these young guys, and like we said, for UCLA to go last three possessions and turn all those into points. And yeah, sure, the second one was a short field, and it was a 4-play drive, negative 4 yards of total offense on that one that ended in a field goal. The other two, a 5-play, 8-play drive, 68 yards, 80 yards. So, kind of inexcusable. All three of those drives were just under 2 minutes. Again, for this Maryland defense, I just felt like for a defense that's really kind of made its stride and really kept Maryland in the game. I mean, Jamari Glasker, his pick six, I believe that's number 4 on the season now. So, the production's there. So again, the defense really carried Maryland into a 4-quarter battle, but in the end, it was the ultimate downfall for the Terps going into the bye week. And like we said, disturbing way for it to end, but a familiar result. 3 heartbreaking losses in a row. I think it's a tough pill for Maryland to swallow. Obviously, when you started out 4-0, going into this first bye week with a ton of positive momentum, starting to gain buzz nationally behind a 3-headed monster freshman trio, and to lose 3 straight this to now. I mean, for a guy like Malik Washington, this is his longest losing streak since youth ball. So it is pretty tough. So. We will see if Maryland can do it, like we talked about, and again, in a tough battle against number 2 ranked Indiana. They are headed to College Park. Kurt Signetti, fresh off a second extension in less than 2 years with the program, testament to what he's done over there. 3:30 p.m. kickoff over on CBS. IU enters this one 8-0. They only have one game this season that has ended in a 1-possession score. 20-15 road win versus Iowa. Ranked second in total offense, second in rushing offense in the Big Ten. Also fourth in total defense in the Big Ten, just under 250 yards per game. Several familiar faces. Obviously, the big guy Roman Hemby leading this Hoosier rushing attack. And this will be his first time back in College Park since he transferred. But the big piece in this Hoosier offense will be QB from Fernando Mendoza, potential number 1 pick. This guy's getting a lot of hype as a high first round candidate in next April's draft. That leads all quarterbacks with 25 total touchdowns. He has a pair of star wide receivers, Omar Cooper Jr. and Elijah Surratt. Elijah Surratt played his senior year over at St. Francis over in Baltimore. Both those guys rank inside the top 10 in the Big Ten in catches. Defense has a couple of studs, D'Angelo Pons, a cornerback, and a pair of linebackers, Aiden Fisher, Isaiah Jones. Lethal pass rush, and another familiar name back in College Park, but will not be active this week. Kellen Wyatt, who suffered a long-term injury a few weeks back, and that will likely end his college career. So no different team, but sad ending for him. But to stay on the main topic, for Maryland, Indiana, big game. This will be Maryland's first chance to beat a top 5 team since Florida State in 2004, which will actually be mark that on the day memory on Thursday. So chance for Maryland to really break history, first time in 21 years, and a program defining chance for a win here. What are you guys looking to see this Saturday? Ben, we'll kick it off with you.
Is Maryland going to be able to contain Indiana's rushing attack? The 230.5 rushing yards per game, it's gets a little bit inflated because some of the games early on. But I'll take it a step further. If Maryland allows over 200, they don't stand a chance in this game. One, just because in terms of time of possession, I think Indiana, if you let them really control the tempo of this game, we know Maryland's had its struggles offensively as of recently, a really good pass rush for Indiana. It's not going to be an easy day for Maryland to put up a lot of points, even though on paper you'd say Maryland's got to put up a lot of points in this game to have a chance. But if you don't allow Maryland to get enough opportunities to even possess the football because Indiana controls the clock, that's going to make things really difficult. So Maryland's going to have to find a way to stop the run without selling out to do it. Because if Maryland has to load up the box and essentially sell out to stop guys like Roman Hemby in the rushing attack for Indiana today, it's going to open things up for Fernando Mendoza, who just plays mistake football. He's got an 8-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, so you're likely not going to have the same success in terms of forcing turnovers like you have throughout this year, which you'd figure would be the formula for winning football, to consistently win the turnover margin and have a pick six last week as well. But even then, it really hasn't worked out in Maryland's favor. And this is a guy in Mendoza who just doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. And if you have a really good rushing attack to go along with the passing attack that Indiana provides, it could be a tough day for Maryland. They're going to have to stop the run early without selling out to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on top of that too. Just the overall, can the defense keep this close again like they did last week? This is going to be the best offense by far that the defense has played. I mean, obviously we played 3 out of conference games that weren't exactly crazy, and then the Big Ten offenses, maybe besides Washington, which they looked pretty impressive against for most of the game, this is easily the best. The third in points per game in the entire country. Mendoza, hopefully in the Browns uniform for me in a few years next year. Top 3 Heisman candidate nationally. And now that the passing attack too, it's obviously the rushing attack, like Ben said, is very good, one of the best in the country as well. But last year, Elijah Surratt really had his way against our young cornerback room. So I'm looking more towards Glasgow and Joyner this week. Can they kind of corral that? Because last year, I remember they were throwing a bunch of back shoulder catches to Surratt, and he was just had his way with the body positioning and overall physical nature against our young corners. So I'm looking at Glasser, who's having a great couple of games since his return from injury, and then also Joyner as well. Looking interested to see where Ted Monachino puts up against Surratt, and Omar Cooper on the other side is no slouch either. So can the Maryland defense continue their solid play and kind of give the offense a chance? Because it's going to be kind of like that Michigan game 2 years ago, where the defense got stop after stop after stop in the second half, and the offense just couldn't pull through all the way. So if they can get a few stops here and there throughout the game and kind of avoid that 40 to 50-point range that Indiana is capable of, maybe we got a shot. So that's what I'm thinking. Enough of the 3 and outs on the other side and get the defense some rest.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And Ben, like you talked about, Mendoza really being capable of playing mistake-free football. I think that's kind of really what Maryland needs to do. When you kind of talk about what went wrong, and I mentioned the Dewan Williams fumble, and the Malik Washington, the interception with a couple minutes left that led to the UCLA field goal. The can Maryland avoid those negative plays? This is not a game where you can really let momentum slide. So really being able to stay locked in and kind of being able to play mistake free. And again, this is a chance for Maryland. That this is probably Maryland's biggest chance this year. I think they match up better against Michigan down the line, but I think this is a chance for Maryland to kind of really make that statement this year, coming out of the bye. Despite this young team, a lot of these guys, Dorian Fleming, Malik Washington, Sidney Stewart, you can kind of really tell that the outside, the losing and whatnot, and the results. Yeah, it stinks, but they're kind of staying locked in, and how does that kind of translate on the field? And I think that this is really that chance, like you said, against an Indiana front that does really well with that pass rush. I mean, they have multiple guys. They have 2 linebackers. Both of them sit inside the top 5. And tied for 3rd in the Big Ten in sacks with 5 sacks each. So they had multiple guys, and that's Aiden Fisher, the veteran leader who was an All Big Ten selection last year. So they have that veteran experience to disrupt a young quarterback. And can Maryland maintain that positive play? Maryland enters November still leading the country in turnover margin. And I think this is really that game where Maryland's going to be tested in that category. And I think really coming out unscathed and really taking advantage, especially, Ricky, like you said, in the red zone offense, capitalizing in the red area. Only 3 touchdown, I believe, on 14 red zone opportunities the last 3 weeks. So I know being able to improve that number, I think going into November, especially against an Indiana defense that has proven to be one of the best in the country, let alone in the Big Ten. So with that, we will dive into our score predictions and the catalyst of the game, brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dog. Catalyst brought the Jersey Dog to the DMV, featuring premium dry aged black Angus all beef hot dogs made in Maryland, served with handmade toppings including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And don't miss their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegan dogs as well as gluten free buns because Catalyst has food for everyone. Make sure to find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Make sure to tell the people a hot dog is a sandwich. And with that, we will dive into score predictions and our picks. Ben, we will kick it off with you.
I got Indiana winning this one 38-13. I just don't think Maryland can keep up offensively. For the most part, Indiana is also just very explosive offensively. And I know Maryland's defense has been much improved this year, but I just really worry about this Indiana rushing attack, controlling tempo of this game, and setting up the passing game for Mendoza to find a lot of success. If Maryland can negate that and stop the run early on in the game, maybe you can control the explosives to an extent and give your offense an opportunity to go make some plays and keep this thing a little bit closer. But I just don't have a lot of confidence in that at this point.
Yeah, I actually wanted to jump on something you were just finished up with last year, in your last point. This is a big opportunity for Maryland. In the past, they have made some mistake plays. You look back at the past games against like Michigan, Ohio State, when they have been close, block punts for safeties, pick six by Tagovailoa in his own red area when we were leading at Ohio State, just stuff like that has constantly plagued teams in these big games. And you look up when you only lose by 7 or within 10 points, these plays make a difference. So I think that for sure is going to be a big thing, limiting those mistakes and winning the turnover battle, which they've done a great job. But again, like Ben said, Mendoza plays mistake-free football. I think it's 24 touchdowns to 3 picks all year. And then just, again, defense, keeping drives for Indiana out of the explosives and trying to just get any stop you can. They're really good offense. There's not much else to say that they're really good. And if the defense can step up, again, Husky outs could be a big talking point. What's the healthiness of Zahir Mathis after he missed last week? Hopefully he's back to closer to 100%. Can Sidney Stewart and both those combos get back to their out-of-conference ways? I know Sidney Stewart's been still fairly solid with the duo together. And Daniel Wingate was a little bit banged up too last week. So the healthiness of the defense and really just trying to keep the offense in the game, avoiding that where it gets to blowout territory. And again, another big spot. You get a lot of big spots in the Big Ten to get up. All it takes is one to change the narrative around the season or program, and there's another spot this week. With all that said, I have Indiana 41-24.
Yeah, I think I get where you're coming from. I think for this one, I think last week or last game, excuse me, Dorian Fleming was a guy a little bit quiet, pair of catches. And I think for a guy going into this matchup for Malik Washington, who's going to see some defensive schemes that he probably hasn't seen before. He's going to see arguably the most dynamic pass rush that he's seen all season. So being able to lean on that veteran tight end, getting Dorian Fleming activated, and especially that includes the red zone, being able to lean on him as a guy that is dependable. I know he's had a couple early season drops, but a couple of those were miscommunications, things that can get cleaned up in time. So being able to lean on him to help Maryland hopefully sustain some long drives, take away some Indiana's momentum. I think that'll be the key. Like we said, Indiana, they are at this point a well-oiled machine, which I don't know how many programs in the country you can say that about in year 2 that is not a blue blood. So I think tremendous amount of respect for him. And I think, Kurt Signetti is a guy that, he's helped kind of accelerate this coaching carousel a little bit. A lot of coaches are looking at how fast Indiana has enjoyed that success, and everyone's looking to replicate it with a big one this weekend, homecoming. Will Maryland be able to pull it out? I have the Hoosiers pulling it out 34-17 in College Park. I believe the last spread was 23.5 points on FanDuel. So we'll see if Maryland will be able to cover and be able to pull out the upset. Ricky, you got it.
I just wanted to add a bit. I know you were kind of wrapping up here. I just want to give a shout out to a guy that I know you've talked a lot about, but I still don't think he gets a lot of recognition amongst the fan base. Bryce McPherson. Yeah. Fantastic. I just want to throw that in. I mean, I think he had like 5 of his 8 punts pinned inside the 20 and 3 over 50 yards. Great weapon to have, especially field position battle could be big if we were keeping it close. He helped a lot last week, and that could be another key. Sorry, I just blew out of the blue, but I just want to throw it out there and get a kicker who can kick it into the end zone.
Yeah, I think that's fair. McPherson, he's been among the Big Ten's best really all season. I think O'Hare really has the potential to ascend into that category. I mean, on field goals, he's been good. I know kickoffs has really been a big point of emphasis or big talking point since the UCLA game. And I think, there was just pregame injury that kind of altered the kickoff specialists. But, that's still been an area of focus. Loxley's talked about, leaning on noise to do kickoffs while you have O'Hare focusing on field goals. And, O'Hare, it seems like, that 50-yard range is still kind of where he's able to, be comfortable. And I think kind of being more consistent on kickoffs is kind of that goal for next season. But yeah, I would say, that's a big thing. And we'll see. One thing that we haven't, talked about really, and one thing that we haven't really seen much of is explosiveness on special teams. On those punt plays, it'll be kind of interesting to see. Andre Powell, he's been able to flash, pair of block punts early in September there. So, can you show that dynamic playmaking, I guess, in the third phase of the game? Maybe that will loom large this Saturday. Kickoff is set for 3:30 p.m. on CBS. Make sure you stay locked in over on InsideTheBlackAndGold.net for all your Maryland news with Big Ten football officially here, basketball season inching closer, and recruiting picking up steam.